If you've ever tried selling real estate, you might have found yourself in a situation where buyers or sellers are just not taking you seriously enough. Deep down, you know that you provide the best service, but for whatever reason, nobody seems to listen. That's likely because you're missing something when it comes to understanding the psychology of selling. And in this video today, I'm going to share with you some of the most powerful sales hacks that top producers use to influence the human mind and close more deals effortlessly. The first thing that you have to understand about the human mind is that we want to work with specialists. So you have to develop your USP. Be the lighthouse, not just another boat out on the sea. And in a sense of real estate agents and the real estate community, you need to stand out. So your unique selling proposition is that lighthouse. It's what's going to help clients find you instead of just getting lost in the crowd. So ask yourself, what makes you the obvious choice? Maybe it's your deep local expertise of a community or a neighborhood, or a specialty regarding luxury homes, or a killer negotiation strategy, or some form of other offer that you bring to the table. Let me share with you a quick example. If you were trying to get a listing appointment and all of a sudden, a real estate agent pulls up to, let's put yourself in the shoes of the actual seller for a second. And a real estate agent pulls up and he's kind of driving a little bit of a, beat up car. He rolls in, not looking professionally dressed necessarily. And then even during the conversation, this particular agent, we'll call him Agent A for a second. This agent doesn't have any sort of consultation process. There's no specific system of questions. There's no gathering of intelligence that this agent is doing in the process. They just basically assume, because they know you're needing to sell, that you're going to use them, right? And select them as the agent. In fact, they even prepare an agreement that they pull out before even building that rapport with you effectively. And you actually see written in the agreement words like, no non-compete and can't use other agents until house is sold. I mean, I don't know about you, but if there's no specialty there, you're probably going to think twice about using that agent. However, think about Agent B for a second. Agent B is the person who shows up not only looking the part because they have the right car, they have the right look, they have the right outfit, but more importantly, they take the time to be a true consultant. They ask the right questions. They get a chance to get a feel for what your needs are, why you're selling, where you want to go. What is it really behind, the sale that is needed for you to feel satisfied in the transaction? They also take the time to show you client testimonials, reviews, other things showing you that you're not the first person that this agent has served and helped before in this local area. Obviously, they have their comps and they have the things that any agent should have, but they also bring to the table a portfolio that you get to keep as that homeowner. And in that portfolio, there's also vouchers and coupons included for their partners in the moving industry, in the home inspection industry, which allows you to be able to have that extra value add, and that helps that agent stand out. It should be pretty obvious, and I exaggerated for effect, but which agent would you rather be? Agent B is the one that's going to get that listing, even if that agent is asking for a higher commission, a higher cut, a higher percentage than the other agent who's even charging you less for their service. Don't forget, most people are not buying based on price. They're buying based on value. And so by standing out, that's really only the first step in prioritizing your positioning. Even if people notice you, they're not going to take action unless you give them a reason to take action. So, how do you get those potential clients to raise their hand and show interest? Well, that's our second step, and that is understanding the power of your offers. There's a concept out there of giving before you get, and we call it the free sample strategy. Think about it this way. Have you ever walked past a food court before and grabbed a free sample? That tiny bite was enough to hook you and make you want some more. And the same thing applies to real estate. Before clients truly commit to using you, they need a taste of what it would would be like to work with you. So instead of just saying, hey, I help buyers and sellers, help their home situations, offer something valuable for free that makes them raise their hand. Examples of that could be things like a free home value report for sellers when they click on your landing page, or a VIP off-market home list for buyers. A neighborhood market trends guide is another great example. And there's so many different things that you can do. A live Q&A session on the home buying process, which is a webinar link that you can send people to. Possibly it's even like what we call a Home Buyer Success Academy course that a lot of top producers create. When you lead with value, people will simply trust you more. And when you're ready to move, of course, you want to be the agent that they think of. And the reason why that is there's something called the A to Z scale. What does that mean? Every single person that you come in contact with is going to fall on that scale somewhere, right? From A to Z. Z is that hottest lead, the hottest buyer, the one that you know is looking for the home or looking to sell. Unfortunately, that's where most real estate agents spend all of their energy, is only serving that type of lead. Where you want to differentiate yourself is on being the agent who knows how to move people down that scale, which we're going to teach you to do, so that when they're not even a hot lead, when they're cold, when they're on A and B, when they're D, when they're F, when they're anywhere on that scale, you want to have a system in place that consistently nurtures those leads so that when the timing is right, you are the no-brainer decision as to who they want to work with. So now that you've gotten those leads, you've gotten people raising their hand because of the free value that you're offering them, you have to obviously move them down the pipeline in order to help them become a closed deal. And so this next one is what we call the prescription approach. Don't just sell, ask questions like a doctor. Think about it. A doctor is not going to just assign you or diagnose you without taking time to ask you the right questions before just, giving you a remedy. So instead of saying, are you ready to buy or things of that nature, ask questions like, what's the biggest challenge in your home search right now? There's so many great resources, by the way, you could think of. What's the one thing that your dream home must have, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer? What's stopping you from moving forward today or working with another agent if they've already had multiple listing appointments? Your goal here is to build trust and uncover potential objections early in the process so that you can be positioned as an advisor from the get-go. But even if you ask the right questions, if you don't follow up correctly, you're simply going to lose deals. So here's how top agents make sure that that never happens. The fortune is truly in the follow-up. I'm sure you've heard that before. There's something that we call the master the 5-touch rule. Studies have shown that 80% of sales happen after the 5th follow-up. Yes, most agents stop after simply 1 or 2 attempts. Don't let that be you. Think of following up as dating. If you ask somebody out once and then you never ask again, unless you're, an Adonis, which most people aren't, if you look like me, you're going to have to ask more than once. So the follow-up strategy is really critical to move things along. That could be simply on day 1, a call or a text. On day 2, it could be an email to a helpful free resource for a neighborhood guide, as we mentioned earlier. On day 4 or 5, that could be a social media reach out, social media connection, maybe even a simple DM to follow up and continue that nurturing process. On day 7 to 10, that could look like personalized voicemails or video messages. And then on day 10 plus, you can have different elements of calls, even utilizing technology and AI to help you do this. So now that you know why it's important to follow up and how to do it, let's make sure that your clients actually trust you enough to simply say yes. And that's the 5th step, what we call the trust accelerator. And in order to do that, you have to use social media and testimonials. People simply don't trust sales pitches, but they do trust other people's experiences. So before booking, a hotel or anything to that nature, you simply check reviews and you look at what other people say about it. And you want to make sure that you're the agent that has a ton of social proof out there so that people know in working with you, it's going to be a great decision. So how do you do that? Video testimonials is obviously a great way. Asking past clients to share their positive experiences with why it was great to work with you. Case studies is another great way to do this. Just simply getting success stories, whether it's on video or written, and you can also do it through social media. You can literally get screenshots of clients who just had a great experience on a text message. Obviously, Google reviews is another way to do this. But trust alone isn't enough on its own, and you want to be able to also learn how to handle specific objections like a pro, so that way you'll never lose a deal. And so the sixth tip is what we call the objection killer, flipping resistance with levels of commitment. I want you to realize that objections as well are not, are not no's. They're simply asking for more questions. They're simply hesitations. And we teach something called the ARC method to handle any potential objection. That stands for acknowledging the objection, simply acknowledging that you understand why your client feels that way, reframing the objection, such as many of my clients felt the same way, but what they found was such and such and such, and then obviously closing again. Let's look at the numbers and see what makes sense for you in this situation. That's called the ARC model, acknowledging, recognizing, and then closing. So let me give you an example here, guys. Let's say you hit an objection such as I'm waiting for interest rates to drop. So the ARC response would simply be, hey, I understand why you would say that. Most buyers feel the same way until they realize that by waiting, they could actually trigger higher home prices in the future. So let me show you a way that we could potentially lower your monthly payment now. Would that work for you if we dig into some of those potential solutions? So now that you know how to handle potential objections using the ARC method, you also want to learn how to create urgency though, so your clients take action instead of just sitting on the fence. So the seventh strategy is what we share, the limited inventory strategy. And this is all about creating urgency without pressure. The best and top producing agents make buyers feel like they're about to miss out on something without being too pushy. I'm sure you've heard of the importance of FOMO before, fear of missing out. So we want to encourage action, and there's a couple different ways to do this. One is through what we would call exclusive access. It's things like, I have an off-market property that might be a perfect fit for you, creating that exclusive feeling. The second is what we call scarcity, that the home already has multiple showings lined up, and you can create that scarcity mindset. And the third is what we call timeline-based pressure, meaning that if you want to be in the new home, let's say before the end of summer, we would need to act now to be able to make sure that timeline is met. The key is simply to educate and not pressure people, but creating certain strategies around the urgency will help people feel like they might lose the opportunity if they don't act. Once they're ready to move forward, here's where you want to make closing the deal feel absolutely effortless for your clients. And it's what we call the red carpet close, meaning making saying yes to you a complete no-brainer. People tend to hesitate when a decision feels complicated. So your job is to roll out the red carpet and make the next step so simple that they simply can't say no. So there's a couple different strategies we teach on closing effortlessly. So one of those strategies is what we call summarizing the win. So based on everything that we've discussed, this home checks all of your boxes and keeps you within your budget, right, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? That would be a summarization statement, right? The second strategy is to minimize risk. You always have a home inspection period to reach out if there's needed as an example of how you can minimize risk. Then the third thing is assuming the close. Let's get the paperwork started so you don't lose out on this home if this is the right one here for you. When clients feel confident and guided, they tend to say yes, obviously, much faster. I've been working with top producers for the last 7 years here in our local market, and these are just a few of the things that keep agents from becoming top producers in their market. We've also made a separate video on our channel posting all of the lessons that we learned and how you can save yourself all of that struggle by not becoming the top producer that you're meant to be. Check out that video below to be able to learn a little bit more.